Okay, so I was not going to make a video on this topic because historically I do not care about the clown show that is the annual All-Star starters or bench or whatever discussion. Every year it's something new. This year, of course, it is Andrew Wiggins and the fact that he is starting, and I just don't feel like this discussion really matters. I call it a clown show because it ultimately doesn't matter, and it's just a bunch of people bickering at each other with no end. And what they're bickering about is always foolish for some reason or another. However, I have decided to indulge this time around because I think I'm starting to finally realize just why I really don't give a shit about the annual discussion here. The discourse surrounding the All-Star game for the past few seasons has been pretty much the textbook definition of missing the forest for the trees. The reason why these things that people bicker about seem so minute and unimportant in the grand scheme of things is because they are complaining about the symptom of a problem rather than the disease. And the disease in question here is an outdated, flawed system that determines who the NBA's best players are, and it's what causes all of these messes. Let's get into it. Before I continue on with this video, about half of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall into that 50%, then please subscribe. Also drop a like on this video, it only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. Trying to hit 300,000 subscribers on the channel by the end of the year, so your subscription would be much appreciated. Now, the controversy this year, as I mentioned in the intro, has been Andrew Wiggins, who, in spite of the fact that he is nowhere near a top 10 to 15 player as you would typically expect in the starting lineup, Andrew is starting in the All-Star game for the Western Conference. Here's why this discourse is stupid. The entire conversation has been focused around the quality of Andrew Wiggins as a player rather than the circumstances that put him in the position that he is in. Andrew Wiggins is starting because of the flawed approach to lineups based around positions in these types of situations. If you want to argue as to whether or not Andrew Wiggins is even an all-star period, that is a different conversation. I personally lean towards yes, but I also acknowledge that he's like a borderline all-star where it could go either way. So I'm not mad at you if you think he shouldn't be an all-star. And either way, I don't think that this discussion has been worthy of any amount of passion or vitriol that I have seen in these discussions, but I don't know, that's NBA fans for you. They scream at each other over nothing. Either way, the reason he is starting is that he is a forward, and that position has been lackluster for the Western Conference this year due to a plethora of injuries. Now, Draymond Green should still have the starting spot over Wiggins with these set parameters, but really, I don't think either should be starting based on who the better players in the league are. Literally, after LeBron, the options are Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Brandon Ingram. And no offense to Brandon Ingram, but you're not going to get there with 4 more points. You're not going to get there with 4 more points per game on a way worse team just based on the precedent of the award. That's another discussion that I don't want to have right now, but that's how voting typically goes, is if you're on a winning team, you're more likely to make it. So with that being the case, Brandon Ingram was never going to get that starting spot. Draymond Green's just less popular than Andrew Wiggins, as stupid as that is, so it makes sense that Andrew got him in that respect. But again, this is just all coming from a broken system. But as a result, there has essentially been a vacancy at that position in the West, so instead of a bona fide superstar filling that role, instead a guy who other years would be the 12th man under normal circumstances, well, now he is a starter. Now, real quick side tangent here. What I find funny is in hindsight, nobody gives a singular shit about who is in the starting lineup and who is not. It's not something that people keep track of. It's not something that people mention for legacy's sake. It's kind of like the Rookie of the Year award where we argue about it for like a year and then never again is that award mentioned ever. Like, very rarely do people talk about who the best rookie of all time was. And if they do, Rookie of the Year and that race has little to do with all-time discussions. No one's like, well, LeBron has Rookie of the Year, therefore he is better than X player who didn't, or whatever the fuck. It's just not a factor. Same shit here. All-star starter has nothing to do with your legacy. As long as you're an all-star, you're an all-star. So there's that. In the long term, nobody gives a shit like the second the game is over. But positions as well as conferences are what dictate these lineups and these selections, and that is a far bigger problem than just the symptom of Wiggins starting. Can someone please tell me why the fuck conferences have anything to do with voting at this point when the game is not even East versus West anymore? What is the point of that other than upholding traditions, which we all acknowledge were bad traditions? What the fuck is that? And why, in an era that is defined by its positionless nature, are we making all of our lineups 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center? Like, that's how the game has been, and it's not. Another side tangent, thank God that both of these conferences happen to have the 2 best centers in the game who happen to be top 10 players in the game. Otherwise, it'd be like Karl Anthony Towns and Bam Adebayo starting, which is not the worst thing in the world, but like clearly not top 10 players again, and they're literally just getting in there over players who would be much better than them simply because of the position they play. Andrew Wiggins is going to start over Luka Doncic this year because Luka is listed as a guard and Wiggins is listed as a forward. Same problem, really. All-star voting should simply be chalked up to the top 24 players in the league, regardless of position, regardless of conference. After that, if you want to proclaim that the players who are the top 10 in voting are the starters, that's cool. Have the 2 guys be the captains and pick their starters first from that 10 pool and then the 14 after. Do the math on that right? Yeah. Either way, do it that way. It shouldn't be the way that it is right now. It should be that way. It's simple, and almost any modern NBA fan agrees with that. The only one who disagrees with that is obsessed with upholding outdated standards. If the NBA's top 10 players, this is just for the sake of argument, this is obviously not the case, but if the NBA's top 10 players were all guards, every single one of them, top 10, guard, shooting guard, whatever, they're all guards. If that was the case, the starting lineup for both teams should be 5 guards, 5 guards. If the top 10 players are all the same position, then the top 10 players are all the same position. It's simple as that. The best players are the best players. Conferences and positions have fuck all to do with that. And what's more pressing of a matter than the All-Star game is that this affects things that are actually a little bit more impactful on Legacy, like all NBA, all defensive, and, well, less impactful, but all rookie teams. And that can also seriously affect players' paychecks, because I think both All-Star selections and all NBA, all defensive teams are things that can be contractually getting a player more money if they achieve those things. DeAndre motherfucking Jordan was all NBA first team in 2016. Was that because DeAndre Jordan was a top 5 player in basketball in 2016? No, he wasn't even top 20, probably not top 30. But because he was the best center in the league that year, he got the first team selection. And thus, he took a spot of a guy who should have got a contract bonus for making all NBA first team, which is like the most illustrious group of players in basketball. That player didn't get that. Instead, DeAndre fucking Jordan did. DeAndre was the 3rd best player on his team, and he got all NBA first team and the other 2 didn't. DeMar DeRozan this year was listed as a guard, even though for the last couple of years he has been a forward. And because of that, that now means that some forward who shouldn't have made it is going to make the All-Star team to fill in that vacancy. But a guard who should have made it now has his spot taken because DeMar was listed at the wrong position. So that guard no longer has his spot, and there's an extra spot open for small forward that DeMar should have filled up. Even within the system, they're fucking up the positions, for God's sakes. I think I've made my point. I've kind of repeated it a few times. That's it. All-star parameters and how the voting currently works is just fundamentally flawed. It's outdated. It's not where the game is today. And fucking change it. All right, that's it. Goodbye. Shout out to Rudy for editing the video. All that. Peace. Also, there's a deep dive coming out on Friday. Look out for that.